Welcome everyone. I've decided to put my thoughts about as a dungeon master, as a DM for Rime of the Frosty Maiden down as a short clip and recording for the podcast. On the DM's chat, there's lots of questions, myself included, as I've gone along. We've just finished chapter 5, so about just over halfway through, and we started the campaign 2 weeks before the book's release. Because we were doing some of the D&D Beyond mini adventures or encounters as a series to lead a party from Luskan all the way to 10 Towns as by means of an introduction. So we're 25 episodes in, going at least 3 or 4 hours each time, say 3 sessions per level, maybe 4 sometimes. So we're just past the midpoint, and they're deep in Orwell's abode now. Now I'm gonna try not to talk about the future or the later chapters, just in case people are listening to this or watching, and more from the perspective of the story as it goes along. But there could be spoilers in here, so just there's a warning there if you're wanting to keep it all spoilers free. So there's the warning, but I'll just kick off. I guess the first thing I want to talk about was how to kick off. I think travelling into Icewind Dale is a good way to do it. The book has everyone being adventurers first level, and they're starting off in 10 Towns, and they've been there in the darkness for 2 years, and now they're first level and ready to get stuck into things. But I preferred to introduce probably the players as well as the PCs into the setting, and so set off from Luskan. The premise of those adventures, and you can look them up on D&D Beyond, they're in Encounters of the Week, is a mercenary group that delivers mail. So you've got some mail to pick up from various places and then drop them off as you head further north. Those are a little bit tongue-in-cheek, and they've got epic level encounters with Driz Do'Urden and Artemis, the guy from Tomb of Annihilation, Dragonbait, and so on. Everyone is some sort of uber character from a different adventure. I sort of turned that down a little bit and made it start grim straight away, or at least progressively get grimmer and grimmer as they got further and further north. But there are ways, if you're looking at doing those adventures, to integrate them more into the story, because in this case they somehow have to have justification for how they can get there and what causes them to stay. Why don't they drop off the deliveries and then head back out, or go, holy crap, this is not a good place to be, let's get out of here. The secrets come into that a lot, so I'll touch on those and how you can sort of best use them and integrate. Some of them are all self-explanatory, but some of them seem to fit almost by accident, but I don't know if that's what the authors intended. Integrating the return of the magical dagger to Artemis. I just had that to an adventurer, a seasoned adventurer, and that was one of the ones that died in the mountain climb. So as the party get to 10 Towns looking for where to deliver this package, they can hear of the chapter 1 adventure, where there's a group of heroes tourists looking to get to the summit of Kelvin's Cairn. Vanifa is a good potential candidate. She leads the party to the Reghead Glacier, where she's hoping to drop a magic item in. You could have Vanifa as another Arcane Brotherhood, just another one of the 4 roaming around looking for a potential semi-evil ally, and they could meet up with her sometime through it as a alternative to Velen Harpel, Naz Lantamir, and so on, the 4 that are in there. There's a skeletal shark with skeletons running around, nonsensical, so I just reskinned that to be much more creepy as like a juvenile sea beast without saying the word kraken. And so same hit points and basically all the same stats, but the picture I used was of a a sea beast with tentacles and so on. They had to fight that off. So the next point I want to touch on is how justification for why everyone just doesn't leave, or why they just don't keep getting supplied. So what I had done is the aura the what's it called, Aurora Borealis, that Oral has brought on, has also ringed the area of 10 towns in storms. Now, not just a wall of storms that's impassable, but it being far more dangerous. So, if you can imagine incredibly dangerous mountain passes to get through, and they go up by a factor of 10. Merchants it's not worth their while to try. So it is possible to get through with a determined effort and a bit of luck, and this is where the party comes in. So you would need to have them pass the point of no return, and then have storms come in behind them, then maybe get a lucky break. I introduced a wandering encounter in a snowstorm of some giant mountain goats, which they were sort of eyeing off, and then suddenly both goats got killed straight out by two boulders from us frost giants. So you could have it as it gets colder, those creatures that normally live right out in the sticks or high up in the mountains come further down looking for game, much like the wolves of the fairy tales coming down when in times of blight or intense weather. As far as a starting point, that you've got to be really careful with level 1 adventures. There are some there that are absolute killers for a first level party. So my suggestion would be just straight up Bryn Shander. That's an easy one, and it's also central. It's also just happened to be, for my group, the one that they hit first because they're coming from the south. If you go Bryn Shander ways, then you've got the nice little goblin adventure, and they can be given the lead to go and look for Sefek Caltro, the murderer. I saw in one of the supplements that others have put out that it seems a bit silly that the Harper cultist, the Harper agent has been following Sefek and on his trail, but he doesn't know where he is, and you'll have to go looking for him. So I agree, and I just had him being, the reason he's not doing it himself is because he's retired, and I think it's a she in the book, is just immobile, and so is a font of knowledge and keeps her ear to the ground, and a good source of rumours and missions, but not able, being semi-retired, to go hunting down Sefek Caltro themselves. So you can then send the party either way. So, oh, he headed east or he headed west. Don't know exactly where, but that's the way that the caravan goes. As far as ones to watch out for, the Black Swords, I think any of the Duergar ones at level 1, I think you would need to be pulling punches, or it just could easily turn to a TPK. Black Swords is not too bad because when you go to the ferry and so on, there's only one dwarf there, so that's sort of been queued up so that lower level, you're fighting one dwarf at a time and then a couple and so on. And depending on the size of the group, a level 2 party can generally ping pong themselves back up to if anyone goes unconscious. But I'll just be wary of anything Duergar related and save that for a bit later on. There's the lake monster, which is fine, first level, or second level, I guess. The mead must flow. Go and see some Verbeeg. If that turns into a combat encounter, even level 2 or 3 characters could easily die. For us, we did that, but there was no 2-hit roll, no saving throw at all. It was a completely. They traded their Axbeak for being allowed to drink from the pool, and that all fit in nicely. Lonelywood and the White Moose is fine, and so is the Mountain Climb, so long as you go guns blazing into a Yeti. Tourmaline is another good one for those very early levels. Cool little adventure, Grell and kobolds running around in mines to muck around with, going berserk. So that's sort of a touch on which things to watch out for, but I'll give you a bit of an idea of what you could do. So let's say you went Bryn Shander and the party went east, wherever. So then there's either heading north towards Caer Dineval and Caer Conig. Then you've got some Duergar to start getting into, assuming they've already got to second, maybe third level by then. It's a long way. It's the longest trek from Bryn Shander to Caer Dineval is the longest between any two places on the entire of 10 towns. So there's plenty of opportunity for you to throw in wandering monsters and give them a chance to even, get to that second or third level on the trip if they don't take up the goblin adventurer from Bryn Shander. Caer Dineval is an opportunity to meet Avarice if they can manage to not try and clean out the whole castle. And Caer Conig further on is also a really good one, so long as they're sort of third level or so. What I did here was there's a mountain climb. It's based in Targos, which just looks ridiculous. There's an expedition leading out from Targos, which is almost as far as you can get from Kelvin's Cairn. Either put it in Caer Conig, so that way it's simple and they can knock off a few of these adventures with a short run, or put it in Tourmaline or Lonelywood or something where an adventuring group might launch off from there via the Dwarven Valley and head up to Kelvin's Cairn as well. Now, following that through, if they end up going through Caer Dineval and Caer Conig and go to the Dwarf Outpost, the information there will naturally lead them to investigate Easthaven because the other brother is there too, and then the gloves starting to come off, and the present threat of the Duergar and the Chatelaine Dragon will start to become apparent to the party. So it's complete sandbox, but you can start to build there is a threat out there. The Duergar are coming. They're everywhere in 10 towns. And it sort of nicely leads up to the dragon being released. One thing I wanted to also touch on is a lot of the other ones to the west involve these ridiculous talking monsters. I'm sure people might love them, but for me it's just a little bit Disney. I just struggle with the talking wolves and the talking mammoths, the talking dinosaur in Maya Dualdon, and the talking moose in Lonelywood. Like, why are all those Frostbrines awakening things and suddenly they're evil and bloodthirsty, ravening beasts, but they're now intelligent and can talk? Didn't make sense, didn't really mesh with me for a horror campaign. I've generally had the awakened still fine, but awakened animals just are cunning and have a alien intelligence to them, which just makes it a little bit creepier than them saying, going all Scar from the Lion King on the party. I guess on from chapter 1, I won't go into much depth beyond that. One thing to be wary of is in Easthaven there's potential for them to meet this ghost, and some of them could age. Party members could age from seeing the ghost. This is in the Easthaven, if they ever meet the White Lady, or when they're protecting the town and the statue. Was it the cauldron from the dwarves or the Zentarim? This actually presents a good hook, because the party then has a reason to go. They've got whatever it is, 10 days or so to try and reverse it, or the person is aged forever. And if they go looking for someone wise, people could point them towards the priest in Bryn Shander, who might offer suggestions. Not powerful enough to cast a spell to reverse it, but they've got a hook there to go and see him, and he might then say, well, I don't know, but that could lead to the Black Cabin via copper. Or it could say, well, you could go and see the great sage Macready's who lives at the recluse at the north of Lonelywood, and that starts to lead them, into the chapter 2 stuff. They could hear, my group decided that there was a legend, that more talking to elders of the towns rather than the sages and whatnot, that someone found the Fountain of Youth, and this was the Sylvanus pool held by the Verbeeg in Goodmead, and so that's where my group went, and they drank from the pool, and they did two things. That gave the character with the secret with the Slard host a means to expel it, and it also healed the aging from the ghost. So it can provide those little hooks, those little encounters they have, give the party a means to cure these things or solve their problems by travelling to other towns and maybe doing other adventures. Gives them a reason to get about. Well, I touched on chapter 2. I don't see that as chapter 2. So I think people get confused with the level progression. So the book says chapter 1, 10 towns, level 1 to 4. Once they get to level 4, they can't level up anymore. Everything's just so easy. Cool. So there's this, muck around in 10 towns for a bit, stay where it's quite safe, and do little bits and pieces, and there's not much treasure, close to 10 towns either. Chapter 2 is 4 to 7, but realistically you've got Sunblight, which is chapter 3, and that, if I jump into it, we'll just scroll down, Speaker's Quest. Have I missed it? It assumes that they should be level 5 before they go into this. Oh, here we go. Fortress, if they are at least 4th level. So around 4th, if this is where it's tuned to, once they get to 4th level, and by now they should be aware of dwarves and the dwarven threat in 10 towns, 2 10 towns. And this is the intermediary plot. So yes, Oral's going berserk, running them up, making everything cold. Yes, there's maybe ancient magic somewhere off, miles away, buried, and there's wizards looking for it, and they should know about that just by encountering wizards somehow, somewhere along the line. Throw Velen in there, or even throw some other wizards. You can have 2 wizards having a gunfight outside one of the towns, and they could observe and help one, or just watch one arcane brother destroy another, take their stuff, and then move on. But back to Zardarok's fortress. They should be at least 4th level, and if they're doing that, and it says, if they achieve this or that or the other, then they go up a level. Well, if they do all those in the same 1 session, they're not going to go up 3 levels. These are just different suggestions for milestones that they might hit, and if they do any one of those is probably the way I interpreted that. So let's assume they go from 4th to 5th by resolving the issues with Zardarok's fortress, and then have to fight this dragon. Now they could do those either way. I'm sure you could just tweak the difficulty levels, but Zardarok's fortress, I think that's what's the easiest path, is do Zardarok first and then the dragon, just because they're tuned for 4th and 5th level respectively. I'll jump and show you to that first page for Destruction's Light. Contribute. If they're not 7th level by the end of this chapter, lure them to some other locations. So if they've done level 4, if their 4th level went to 5th level with the fortress, and then they go, oh crap, well, now we have to go and get this dragon and go chasing that all around the ice. Somehow they're at 7th level. You got no opportunity to send them off to to chapter 2, so that where to fit in chapter 2. So what I did is chapter 1, stay close, learn about threats to 10 towns, do some little bits and bobs, and at some point they witness a town being destroyed by the dragon from across the other side of a lake or something like that. They don't get to experience the dragon firsthand, but they're more of a either rescue party or helping refugees or taking word to the authorities. Somewhere has been destroyed. So if I jump back to the map, that would be Dugan's Hole. That's the first target, and that's a nice little place. Like, so if they're in Goodmead or in East Haven or something, that would be the time to destroy Dugan's Hole and alter it so that the dragon doesn't just sweep through. There's no way with the movement rates in the game that they can catch the dragon. So releasing the dragon and then them chasing after it is a little Benny Hill adventure when everything's eventually going to get destroyed, or they just go straight to Brinchander and wait for it there and everything get destroyed. So it's a little bit, takes away, I hate the word agency, takes away the impact that the characters can have. And so what I did was the order that Zardarok gave the dragon was take your time, destroy a town, and then return for repairs. Then the next day go to the next town, next day go to the next town. Now if the party go to Sunblight first, and that's most likely what would happen if they go to the authorities are going to say, well, which town do we go do we save, where do we go and make our stand? You can give them the mission, which is in the book. Some speaker somewhere calls them in and says, right, we need to send you to cut off the source, kill the controller, whatever. So they go off to Sunblight, hopefully resolve it and make an alliance with Grandolpha, and at that point she would refuse to. She doesn't want an insane dragon. She can see it sent her fiance insane with Chardalyn madness. So if she agrees to not repair the dragon and not even admit it back into the wouldn't take agreeing. She might just say, no, I don't want it anywhere. If you guys kill it, all well and good. It's not my beast. So that's a good outcome. Obviously not everyone's adventure is going to go that way. They may end up in prison or captured by the dwarves, and if in that case they're on a clock. Once per day a town is getting destroyed. Dugan's Hole, Goodmead, East Haven, and suddenly the K is up the east. So then you can let them out at 5th or 6th level, and then they can go dragon hunting. And this is where you could add Velin in, or Vanifer, or one of the other wizards that you've invented, who could aid the party by teleporting them. This is what I did the old, I can teleport you, I've got a scroll or something, or I've got a helm of teleportation, and saved later troubles because Velin's gets mugged by Naz Lantamir later in the adventure, and Naz steals this orb or items from Velin, so she could have just as easily have stolen her scrolls of teleportation or something like that, and then use them all by the time the party gets up to it. So it's sort of like a one-shot type thing when Velin doesn't think it's a one-shot and is a bit free with that at the start. So they can get teleported to whichever town they decide to dig their heels in and defeat the dragon. So okay, one more area I wanted to just touch on. That's pretty much it for getting up to chapter 5 that I wanted to make some points on, but more general stuff. A lot of confusion, I think, on the movement distance. So you only get certain kilometres per day unless you've got snowshoes. If you've got that, then you go a bit faster, and if you've got dogs, you go twice as fast, but they have to rest half as much. So twice as much every hour. They have to rest for an hour. So what's the point in having dogs? Doesn't really make sense, and a full set of dogs with 6 or so puts them back 300 gold. So I think there's plenty of opportunity if you just say dogs go twice as fast and they cover twice as much distance. if you stick with there's only 4 hours of light, and that reasonably, without risk of exhaustion, is when they would need to travel, unless they really push through and they're just trying to make it to a town or something, you know, rescue someone or get somewhere within it on the clock. My group pretty quickly only travelled through those 4 hours of light, and then either attuned to items or trained or hung out in their tents for the other 4 hours of activity. And they could do activity so long as it wasn't out in the minus 40 to minus 80 degrees. Bear in mind that cold weather gear protects you up to minus 40, and Icewind Dale, once the weather's inclement and it's night, gets well beyond that. So getting caught outdoors at night, they'll die of cold regardless. So don't let PCs say, "Oh, I've got cold weather gear, I'm okay." Cold weather, you know, even someone with resistance to cold, you could argue that, well, over the course you're still going to freeze to death in a freezer. Resistance is not immunity. But so distance. So I let them early on, chapter 1 or so. They got loaned some dogs for certain portions of it. Got granted some when there was, given colleagues, the hunters from the towns with dog sleds to race them somewhere if it's needed as part of a supported quest. And axe beaks as well. So generally the party didn't buy axe beaks. I guess some groups will, no doubt, and run around on their tauntaun style stuff. But I allowed the small PCs to ride them. Thought it's fine to let the gnomes and the halflings and whatnot ride them, being light enough. So, and just from having a regular pack, not much different. And it just means those guys are normally running around at speed 25 or 20 have got some way to get around a bit faster and keep up with the party, even if they're on foot. But secrets and where they can sort of actually hook into different parts of the adventure. There's parts where they specifically say, if anyone has this secret, this would be a great time to have something burst out of their chest or whatnot. But Algondor Skyon, I think that's a good one to just introduce some NPC helpers. So if the heir to the throne of Neverwinter is hiding out in the north, there may be a couple of people who sent him there, or and Merlin type character, obviously not that powerful, but a respected elder, and maybe some merry men or allies of some sort. And if the Lord of Neverember does send some assassins or someone to try and chase him down, these guys could step in and there's be a big battle of some sort, and suddenly he's got some followers, old school style followers, not high enough level and non-adventurers, but guards of some sort, or guard captain. You can make them whatever fits, depending on who's got the Algondar Skyon. That this gives somewhere for them to have base camps, and if every party's got 4 dogs each, they can set up a camp, go off to some adventure, and then not come back with them all dead. And I think it's handy to have a little travelling entourage for open tundra. Doppelganger, don't really have much thoughts on that. If one of your PCs is keen on it, then that's great. Driz fan is pretty much a non-secret. Elusive Paramour's handy, and I guess you'll just have to let the PC go with this. You can use this as a similar one to the Algondar Skyon, just where an assassin comes in and has them, just keep them on their toes and keep them moving, especially if whoever's got that is wanting to keep it a secret from the rest of the party. Escaped prisoners brought here by mind flayers. I would tie this directly into, I think that's the expectation, directly into the Nautilus with the Ceremorphs, and they've escaped from there. So if you've got anyone who's got telepathy in the party, we did, because there was a Ghostwise Halfling, natural telepaths, give the distress signal coming into their head. You could extend that to anyone who's got telepathic-like abilities, or could cast spells, something like it. Someone who's got message or sending, or the cantrip even. Maybe they pick up on it, stretch the friendship of the thing, and have them hear this helper in deep speech, I think it is. So they might need to find Macready's or someone who can translate for them. Help me, help us, please help us, blah, 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 blah. And that leads them onto the nifty little side quest. And the escaped prisoner would be handy for pinpointing this location. Littlest Yeti, it's only going to help in a bit come into it when they meet Yeti. I wouldn't have it as a follower or anything like that, like the Owlbear Whisperer, but it's a cool little way to, if someone's got it, then early on that you can throw the Yeti based adventures to the party earlier. Mountain climb's one of them, and another option you could consider is an orphan, say dead Yeti for some reason, as a wandering encounter, and there'd be a little Yeti there, which could be a little mascot, again joining the entourage. Someone will love it, no doubt, but not gonna break the game by any means, especially if you treat it like Fizzgig from Dark Crystal, or bit cross, bit angry, bit yappy, or what's the other one I was thinking of? Like, gremlins. Either the creepy, crazy gremlins, or a bit too small to do too much damage by themselves, but something that really needs to be controlled, and something that I don't want to just be releasing on a town. Midwinter Child, I changed a little. So if I was born on the midwinter holiday, I'm resistant to cold. Well, that would be 1 in every 300 or so people, and there'd be Midwinter Child all over the place, and it wouldn't be that special. So I just changed it to Midwinter Child, born on a midwinter holiday on the night of a full moon, so when those two intersect. So there's far less of them, and there's far more special or unique set of events to trigger it. That's a pretty good one to have, especially for edge of good and evil characters, where the party might start to mistrust them, especially if Sephat Caltro starts buddying up to them. Oh, hey buddy, you're one of us. I notice. What are you hanging out with this lot for? That sort of thing. Orcstone, I'd recommend that for any half-orc or orc characters, and then tie it to their own background, rather than just, I saved an orc, and then it could be one of their ancestors, even someone closely related to them, a brother or sister warrior that died and whatnot, and it comes to help them. I guess I won't just read through them all, just where they can tie in. Obviously Pirate Cannibal leads them to the Dark Duchess. Reghead Air will come in. I would suggest using the Reghead wandering encounters if you've got a Reghead Air in there, and start to introduce the Reghead earlier on. I didn't do that, and I probably should have, so that when they then meet the tribe of the tiger, tribe of the wolf, they know what their sort of themes are before getting to the oral tests on Solstice. Reincarnation and Ring Hunter are not real, and same with Runaway Author are sort of nothing secrets in my opinion. Slard Host and Spy are really good. Slard Host, I rolled it secretly. I didn't let them know that they had it and let them pick it. No one in their right mind is just going to say, yeah, sure, kill me when you choose to. And I'll just roll up a new character, thanks. I rolled a secret, let them pick and so on, but also they had Slard host. Now there's no way I was going to kill them outright unless they actively embraced it, but just describe this thing moving under their skin in their sleep, when it starts to become active, and maybe some other characters notice, maybe they try to cut it out or somehow get rid of it. Just make it that they can't without a healing spell that's beyond their means. Greater Restoration is the one that I was tying it to, and that's what they found out when they tried to research it from the priest in Brinchander. And then Macready's confirmed that it was a Slard. At first they thought it was a Mind Flayer tadpole. Now if you change, I was considering changing this to a Mind Flayer tadpole, and then the person who had this Mind Flayer tadpole in them would hear the id, the distress signal from the Nautilus as well. Come to us, my kin, whatnot. And so you can use that potentially use that as a hook as well. I think I mentioned before that that's a good hook to the Verbeeg in a Goodmead. Spy, Harper affiliation, so I guess that's just a Beldora. Suddenly there's this Beldora Harper contact. I just use that as the same character as the Brinchander quest. It's the first time they get there. There's someone there that, if that's a Harper mentor for one of the characters, and the contact that they're supposed to be going there to meet, the first quest they give them is Surfet Cultro, so it fits much more nicely than having another mentor type character that they need to contact when there's already a perfectly good one that can double up rather than bloating out the NPCs. Okay, so that's all I really wanted to go over tonight. I'll talk more once we've got real actual play experience, completing the next 3 chapters, probably at the end of the whole adventure. There's only a couple of months left in it for us. But I hope this might have been useful to some people, and if you're keen on listening in the podcast Flurry of Foes, you'll find it just by an easy search, or on the YouTube clips as well if you're wanting to have a look. We're using Roll20 and D&D Beyond as a combination. So I hope you get something out of this, and I look forward to experiencing the rest of it and listening into everyone else's playthroughs and how it's panned out for them. Thanks. Bye.